So it's 7:01 and I'm calling this meeting of the Wakefield Youth Council to order. So I'm going to go through attendance. I tried to do it while people were coming in, but then it seems like everybody came in at once. So I'm going to call names. All right. So I'm here. Yana.
Here.
Ali.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Nick Polari. No Nick yet. Uma.
Here.
Who's here? Paige McGibbon.
Here.
Josh Catino.
Here.
Sophie.
Here.
Nivea. I don't see Nivea yet. Ellie. No, Ellie. I know Jenna is coming from dance. Nick W.
Here.
Tegan. No Tegan yet. Madeline.
Here.
Do you remind one more time, Madeline or Madeline? I know I asked you last time.
Madeline.
Madeline, I'm so sorry. I promise I will get that.
It's totally fine. A lot of people just completely ignore it, so
Gotcha.
all good.
All right. Charlotte. Charlotte Holmes, not yet. Paige Arkansas.
Here.
All right. Matt Conley. Not here yet. Bella Schwartzberg.
Here. Sorry.
No worries. Juliana.
Here.
And Megan. Let's see Megan yet. All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. I hope you're all enjoying this rainy Tuesday. I know I am. I really like the rain. It's nice weather. All right. So for public comment, is anybody here from the public wishing to speak? You can go ahead and unmute.
I'm sorry, it's pretty dark.
No worries.
Hi, my name is Janice Marabasi, and I am part of the Wakefield Alliance Against Violence. I also work with the Department of Public Health Sexual and Domestic Violence Program with my colleague, Mark Bergeron-Naper. And Mark invited me to this meeting today that he had heard about, courtesy of his relatives. Yikes, it's really windy.
Mark is my uncle. Yeah, just to clarify. So yeah.
So I will either stay on or get off, depending on what you're comfortable with. I just wanted to say my public comment is thank you for being involved in this work. And that's my private and my public comment. So if there's anything that can be done for you by the folks at the Department of Public Health that work in the sexual and domestic violence program. Specifically, Mark works with the Healthy Relationships program across the state and the sexual violence prevention programs across the state. And he has a vested interest in Wakefield, given that his niece and his granddaughter live here. So that is my public comment.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And you're more than welcome to stay on for however long you would like. Catherine, did you want to say something?
Yes. Hi, Janice. I'm
Hi,
a
Catherine. How are you?
WAVE member, and thank you for the work that you do. And I just wanted to give everyone kind of a timely update based on having Janice here and some of the advocacy Madeline has already done around this issue. And then for those that were at the some of our school liaison members were at the school committee meeting most recently, where we presented the youth risk behavior survey around this topic. And just today, WAVE members were at the Galvin Middle School, and they were evaluating all the 8th graders projects around dating violence, and they all submitted either posters or pamphlets, and they voted on a poster and a pamphlet that they're going to reproduce. So this is just one of several things, and they're also going to be bringing in a education person from Respond to come into every single 8th grade classroom and every single 10th grade classroom to talk about resources around dating violence. So that's just an update around that topic. So I just want to thank Madeline for her real interest in the topic and for advocating around that topic.
Yeah, thank you, Madeline. That's something that it's a relevant issue no matter where you are and how old you are. Definitely something that needs the stigma to kind of be shrunk around, and something that I think we as a group can really work on and raise awareness with. So thank you for bringing that up, and thank you for your public comment. All right, is there anybody else here from the public wishing to speak at this time? All right, I'm not seeing any. So next is approval of the minutes. So Nick Polari, who I don't believe he's not on here yet, but he was kind enough to write them for our last meeting. So that everybody have a chance to look at them. And do we have any questions? All right, do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of our last meeting?
A motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, I'm going to call the roll. Yana,
Yes.
Ali,
Yes.
thank you. Thomas,
Yes.
Nick is not here. Uma, all right. Paige McGibbon,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Sophie,
Yes.
Nick W,
Yes.
Tegan is not here, and Madeline.
Yes.
All right, so that passes unanimously by a voice vote. Thank you, everybody. So next on the agenda again is our clerk election. So I know we've kind of been at a little bit of a standstill with this position because it is, it's not too much work, but it's definitely a bit time consuming. So you have to rewatch the meeting and type everything out. Is there anybody that's interested in upholding this position for the council to write the minutes? Or is anybody willing to try doing it for this meeting and just kind of see how you like it and test the waters a little bit before you're kind of in the position?
Is that your mom?
Any volunteers? All right. Does anybody have any questions about the position?
So I have a question. Can we just rotate the minute writing at each meeting? Counselor Chines, is that allowed?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's ultimately up to the youth council to figure out how you want to keep minutes, and so you know, it is a little bit of a commitment. And so if that's something that makes sense to the youth council to rotate it from meeting to meeting, I think that's a good way of handling it.
Thank you, Mr. Chines. I think that's a good idea because then we can all get a little taste of it. Madeline, yes, go ahead.
So my worry would be that I don't really know how to like set up the page when I'm writing them. Is there something that I could go off of if like I were to try it for this meeting?
Absolutely. So on our page on the town website, which I can send you a link to, or it's easy to find if you Google it, there is a tab for meeting minutes. And you can see all of the ones that I've sent. Anthony Amatucci was our secretary, which we now call the clerk, for our last term. He did a great job with it. So there are definitely a lot of examples that you can go off of. So personally, what I like to do is I like to take each item on the agenda, and then I usually make bullet points under that and just kind of summarize what we've talked about. And it's pretty easy to do, especially because WCAT is kind enough to post our videos on the YouTube channel. So you can go back and watch it, rewatch certain parts and kind of do it at your own pace. So if that is something that you're interested in, and I'd be happy to help you. If you want to just put it in a Google Doc at first and then send it to me, then I can put it in the Microsoft template that the town uses.
Yeah, I could totally try it for this meeting and like see how I like it and see if I can figure it out. So
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you. Nick, go ahead.
I just think if we were to rotate it around people, we should make like a template so it's not as hard for people to do, like a fill in the blank. So everyone like, no, there'll be no mistakes or errors.
Yeah, I really like that idea. I'm more than happy to make that. Is everybody good with that? So if Madeline does it for this meeting, and then I'll send out a template, and then our next meeting, we can start a little bit of a rotation for who does that. So is that good with everybody? I think that sounds like a pretty good plan. So then the work is easily divided between members. Awesome. I really like that plan. All right. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add to that before we move on? All right. So next, which I'm very excited for, is that we have some liaison updates. So each of you have been assigned a liaison position. I believe Catherine has sent out an email to everybody connecting them with their point person for the position. Has anybody not heard back from their liaison?
I have not heard back.
Okay, so Thomas. Anybody else?
I haven't either.
Okay.
I haven't heard back either.
All right.
Okay, so that is Thomas. Is that Mr. Pavey?
Yes.
Okay, so I know he wants to talk to you, especially about the civics projects coming up and everything. So he is very well aware. So I'll send an email to him. Who else? Megan. I think you sent me an email. Are you the library?
No, I'm not the library. I think either the PTO or the PTA liaison.
Oh yeah, you're the PTO. And I sent you an introductory email, correct?
No. You did not.
Okay. All right. So that's, oh, I think I was waiting to hear who the president was this year. I could say the obvious, ask your mom, but I'll do introduction because I think it's Mr. Davis at the Galvin Middle School, and I believe it's Mrs. Connolly at the high school. And then was there one other person? Josh,
Yeah.
you haven't heard back from our communications director?
I haven't, no.
Okay, I will send an email right after this meeting. So Josh, Megan, and Thomas. Okay.
All right. Is there anybody else that hasn't been connected with their point person yet? All right, that's great. And so we had talked about potentially for everybody to set up a meeting with their person. I think that's a really great way to start to get connected and to build the bridge between our group and their group. So I know I mentioned writing out some kind of guided questions that you can use during that meeting. Did I end up sending those out? Okay, I don't think I did. I'm gonna write myself a reminder right now. I did make those, so I'll send those out after this meeting. It's just kind of things that you can base your conversation off of to guide you, and they're pretty open-ended questions. So there's room for some elaboration. So I will be sure to do that. Did anybody have a meeting or attend a meeting with their liaison positions and have an update they'd like to share? All right, Ali, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, so me and Jenna have gone to 2 school committee meetings so far. So there are like a few major highlights from those meetings. So the first one is that the school committee voted to adopt a new policy on how to change mascots. So that policy they voted on, I believe, on their September 30th meeting. And it talks about how the future mascots, how they have to follow a specific process in line with the superintendent and the school committee, and how all future mascots will not be discriminatory towards gender, race, and a lot of other categories. And then a second highlight is how the Wakefield Public Schools will be continuing its mask mandate on schools for the time being, because the schools have not reached 80%, and Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong, 80% vaccination rate, but we're almost there. And then the third major highlight is that the school committee was presented the YRBS, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey data for the past year. So those are my updates.
Awesome. Thank you, Ali. Does anybody have any questions for him? Catherine, go ahead.
I just have two quick follow-ups on that. If some of you saw today that the state of Massachusetts and DESE extended that mask guidance for the whole state until the end of this school year. So I'm not to the end of this calendar year, to the end of December. So that that's going to take the debate won't happen in the school committee, and it gives us time to move up those, push up those vaccination rates. And then the other one is if I will send Lauren the youth risk behavior presentation I did with Mr. Tetrell and Mr. Kent, and she can send it to the rest of the youth council. It'd be great for everyone to take a look at that before our next youth council meeting, and maybe we can have a discussion on that.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking the same thing, Catherine. I was going to ask if you maybe wanted to pick out a few major themes that you saw from the presentation. So once I send that out, everybody can take a look at it, and then maybe we can discuss any questions or concerns that you have. And then maybe that can spark one of our initiatives in response to that survey. And it was taken in a pretty unique year. And so I think that there's going to be a lot of valuable information for us to see the short-term and the long-term effects of the pandemic on youth health and youth risk. Awesome. Thank you again, Ali. That's valuable information.
I just looked at my notes, and I just have a couple more things that I just wanted to share about the school committee. So there's a logo working group for remaking the Wakefield High School's logo. So we might want to have a member apply to be on that working group, and I can contact Mrs. Bayer, who's the school committee chair, or we can just stay like aware of what is happening by being informed on those. And then we might want to collect feedback from us to provide to the designer and architect as a part of the process for collecting information from the community on the new high school project. So those are some things that we might want to look out for.
Awesome. Thank you. Any questions or comments on those last few points? All right. Does anybody else have a liaison update they'd like to share? Nick, go ahead.
I'm the liaison to the recreation department. So I went to one recreation meeting, and I had a one-on-one meeting with Dan McGrath, I think 3 weeks ago. So in the recreation meeting, he said that like the leaks in the Civic Center roof are like really bad. They're worse than they've ever been. And it's like because they just got the brand new basketball courts, it's like ruining the brand new courts that they spent a lot of money on. And they're almost unusable because there's buckets everywhere collecting water. And he also pointed out like that the courts are getting like the basketball courts at the Galvin are really bad, and they're thinking about completely fencing it so they can lock them up because like the trash and bad activities that are happening there.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of what was happening at the Civic Center. That's definitely some good information. Does anybody have anything they want to add or any ideas of what we can do to provide a youth voice to those issues? That's something with the Galvin courts. Are there the outside ones?
Yeah, he was talking about the outside courts.
Gotcha. Yeah, maybe that's something we can think about. Maybe we have a day where we can pick up trash around there or put some things out on social media. Ideas and just reminders to keep our courts clean and our town in general clean. Because I think that is a big issue that we can hopefully have a voice in. Madeline, go ahead.
That's similar to what I was gonna say. I was gonna say like we could come up with some sort of a, whether it's strictly like or mostly youth-based or community and town-wide, like a cleanup day, just to kind of like remind people that like why they're there and what they look like when they're being taken care of. Because I know there were some horrible words written on the courts, and there was like trash everywhere and stuff. But like just to kind of remind people that they are there like to be used, but properly. So
Definitely. Maybe that's something that we can work on with the communications and outreach subcommittee to promote, and we can kind of figure out more structured ideas and goals around that. But I really like those ideas. Yana, go ahead.
I really like the idea of having us clean up or make a day for that. And I feel like we could even focus it like more of a clean up Wakefield or something and not just the courts. I feel like we make it around the town. I don't know exactly how we would plan it, but I feel like that would be really cool to get the community involved in something like that, run by the youth council.
Yana, maybe you can even design us some shirts for that day.
That would be cool, guys. That'd be really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that's something that would hopefully be well received by the community, because it's something that any resident can take part in, and any resident can have a big or small impact. So does that sound like something that we would want to work on and plan with everybody?
I just have a thought that I do know there's a holiday coming up, Veterans Day, and I know there's celebration, honoring our veterans in the morning, and there's a ceremony, but that might be a good opportunity to do something that day, to do a cleanup at the court. Maybe you could have 3 or 4 different locations, and some of you are captains at those locations, and and you could make it, you can decide, you could even do a small subcommittee to work on this. But I also think what Nick and Lauren said, that some sort of social media to remind youth, that these are spaces and they're something that the town pays money for, and that they're, something that should be respected so they can be used by all youth. And, that whole saying, like, a few bad behaviors could ruin it, as Nick said, it could get locked up. So thinking about how to address that in a social media campaign or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with. Oh,
Sorry,
I
Ollie.
just want to say, yeah, I totally agree, Catherine. As soon as we get the communications outreach subcommittee started up, I definitely want to start advocating for that on our social media platforms. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and Josh, I know that you are connected with Jen McDonald, the communications director for Wakefield. So maybe you can work with her on some graphics that we can post with that, or some like infographics. And then you can partner with Ollie for the subcommittee once we get that going.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add? Paige, go ahead.
I know like during like Tri-M, like I know like you're part of Tri-M, we were talking about like having like a lake cleanup or something, and like involving volunteers like outside of the group. So like if there's any way that like youth council and Tri-M at school could like collaborate or just like work together to like achieve like the like cleanup thing, or just community cleanup.
Yeah, I really like that idea. For those that don't know, Tri-M, it stands for Modern Music Masters, and it's the National Honor Society for music students. So that might be a good group for us to partner with. And then maybe we could also partner with the National Honor Society and do a big joint project. And then maybe we could even get the youth action team in on it as well. So that can be a big collaboration. Josh, go ahead.
So I'm part of like the board for the National Art Honor Society. So I can also talk to the president and vice president, see if that would be something that we'd be interested in doing as well, joining with you guys and like Tri-M and all that.
Yeah, I really like that idea. I think it would be great to have a lot of the younger like youth centered groups to collaborate on this. Yana and then Nick.
I know that there's a royal cleanup crew too, and if you guys are interested of volunteering on that, I think Sophie Brown is part of it, so that's something we could get into and volunteer for as well.
Nick, go ahead.
In my one-on-one meeting with Dan McGrath, he said he's basically is open to any project that we want to do. He said he's going to try every possible way to figure out any project. So maybe we could loop in the rec department, because he basically said I have basically have free reign. I just need to come up with something to do. So I was looking for feedback from the youth council on what to do, maybe like a charity to fund the project for.
Did Dan also say anything about, because I know they're looking at adding things to some parks around town, did he talk about if he wanted youth council or youth input on some of those potential projects, Nick?
He didn't mention much about the parks. He like said quickly that they're gonna add stuff. We didn't talk about that much for long.
That might be good for your next meeting with him to find out what potential, because I know they're kind of deciding between this or that, or they have some thoughts. And it'd be maybe good to invite him to a meeting and ask him to present on some of those upcoming changes.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of opportunities from him basically, because he just said he's gonna try anything he can do to make a whatever event we plan. So I feel like that could open up a lot of opportunities for whatever we want to do.
Yeah, Nick, if you wanted to, once we figure out our next meeting date, if you'd like to invite him to join us, and then we can talk about this project a little bit further. Because I think it's something that, like I said before, would be well received by the community, and that everybody can take part in. So if you want to reach out to him and invite him to our next meeting once we have a date finalized, we can do that. And then I had later on the agenda, I'm not sure if these friends will show up, but so somebody reached out to us. It was a mom of an elementary schooler, I believe, or a middle schooler. And she said that her son and his friends would really like to work with us in picking up trash and recycling around the community. So this would be a great way for us to connect with even younger students within the elementary schools on that. So this is all kind of connecting, coming together, which is really nice.
So Lauren, I do want to kind of keep in mind that the cold weather is coming. So I think if the youth council is going to partner with all these other groups, which I think is fantastic, because we can really highlight all the youth leadership in the community coming together. I would go sooner rather than later, because you're going to hit the holidays. So that's why I suggested maybe the afternoon of Veterans Day or something like that, where you have students off from school, but it would need, a few of you to step up and form a quick committee to put that together. So, because then you're going to get into, our next meeting will be coming up and against Thanksgiving and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can work on putting a group together. So maybe tonight I'll send out an email to all of these groups and gauge their interest. And then I'll send a form out to those, to all of you guys. And then I can gauge the membership from there for us to establish a quick working group to finalize more of the details around this. Madeline, go ahead.
So I also had my one-on-one. And one of the things with Jackie from the library committee, and one of the things, like, she similarly said that I pretty much have free reign, but to keep in mind that since the library is obviously indoors, it might be a good idea to wait until like mask mandates are lifted or things like that. But also, while the weather is still kind of nice, if we wanted to use the outside area for things, then we can. But she said 100% like it would be great to do the whatever that we'll end up doing with the wave and all of that stuff. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that update. Does anybody have any questions about that? Nick, go ahead.
I just have a comment about the subcommittee. I would be willing to co-run it with someone else, because I know I attend the Galvin, so it'd be easy for me to start running stuff through there, about the court pickup, because that could be one of the sections.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
So would I.
Do that. All right. Awesome.
Maybe we can get one person from the high school. So if Madeline and Nick and then a high school can chair that committee, and we can have those chairs established now, because we'll have to start planning tomorrow.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think that if me and Madeline can run like the Galvin side of it, and we can have maybe one or two more high schoolers on the high school side, we could have like a big two schools to get together, start cleaning up like the campuses and maybe some other town spots.
Absolutely. But any high schoolers, I'm willing to do it, but I want to give everybody an opportunity. Would anybody like to co-run that with our middle
And
school?
I nominate me and Paige because we have worked together on a leadership. We were presidents of Garden Club last year, and I think we would be great candidates.
All right, sounds good. Is everybody good with Paige and Valor running that for the high school? All right, and we can all be a part of it, but you guys would be the ones just kind of heading it and chairing those meetings.
So it's going to be Paige, Bella, Nick, and Madeline, the four of you, and will chair this, and then obviously anyone else. And they'll reach out to those groups that everyone mentioned. But if we can get a meeting set up, a public meeting set up for them, probably this week, we want to get that going.
Nick, go ahead.
Do you think we should bring it up at the Galvin Middle School Youth Action Team meeting tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, you could absolutely, if you all decide, maybe we have to post the meeting to meet about it. So we're not, just say there's a cleanup coming. We won't know the specifics, but you could say that absolutely. Because we'll have to get, work with the four of you to determine the date, solidify the date, if you're going to go with that day off of school, and then maybe the 4 locations. And then maybe we utilize the library to have a kind of a safe kind of get together at the end where everyone gets pizza or something.
Oh, sorry.
Nick, go ahead.
Well, we could use like the library as like a place like everyone could pick up their trash and they could like bring their bag, and like if you like bring a bag of trash, you could be entered into maybe like a raffle, and like you can do like a raffle there, so that will draw more attention from the public, so more people participate.
I love that idea. I'm all for it. Maybe we can even have some small and local businesses if they'd like to donate, and they can donate some baskets, and then we can get even more of the community involved. So if the 4 of you want to reach out to some small businesses after you plan that meeting, I think that sounds great. Madeline, go ahead.
So I just had a question like about how the subcommittee would work. Can like Nick and I talk about it tomorrow at the Youth Action Team meeting, or is it like this only on at the next at our meeting?
So I'd like Mr. Chines and Catherine to correct me if I'm wrong, because I want to answer this correctly. But I believe the way it works is that if it's 3 or more members of a group, that calls for a public meeting. However, I believe if it's 2 members of a group talking about an initiative or something of the group's matter with members of a non-public meeting group, that is allowed. I definitely explained that poorly. Mr. Chines, if you'd like to chime in, please do.
Sure. So I do think if the 4 of you are meeting, because you formed sort of a subcommittee, that would be a meeting that you'd want to post publicly. I think, Madeline, it sounds like you're talking about just sort of, kind of announcing this and asking if folks are interested in getting involved at the Youth Action Team tomorrow. Yep. So that's fine. I think it's totally appropriate for you and Nick to mention that at that meeting. And, if you're able to bring in other volunteers that then want to come to that public meeting that you're having to plan it, that's totally appropriate.
Thank you for your expertise and input. All right. Does anybody have any other questions about how that would work? So I will connect all of you by email so you have each other's information. And then I will give you Sherry Dalton's email, and she is the one that you email for an agenda template and a Zoom link once you figure out a meeting date. And then once that's posted, I can put that out to the rest of the council, so anybody can attend that meeting that would like to be a part of it. So any other questions about the meeting aspect of it, or any questions about this initiative. I'm getting very excited about this. I think this will be a great project. Mr. Chines, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, to the subcommittee as well, if there's any support that you need from the town council, and I'm thinking if you're looking for kind of folks to sponsor pizza or anything like that, please let me know, and I'm sure that my colleagues and I would be happy. I know that I would be, but I'm sure my colleagues would be happy to help as well.
Thank you. It's so nice to have great role models in our town that are willing to step up and support us. Nick, go ahead.
Just because like the amount of like people from the town and like different groups, I'm pretty sure we're gonna need some town council help. So I was just saying you should be ready for that, because I'm pretty sure if we're looking to get sponsorships from a lot of people, that would be hard to do just for high school and middle school kids.
Oh, again, absolutely happy to help, and again, not to kind of speak for the other counselors. I'm sure that they would be too.
Great. Does anybody else have anything? Go ahead.
I would just request that you put it into the newspaper so that plain old citizens that are not part of this group would be able to see it and volunteer for this really, really great task. And thank you for bringing it up and doing it. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So then our outreach can be equal and fair to everybody. So Ali, maybe if you would like to maybe draft something, or if anybody else wants to do it, I'm just thinking Ali because of the subcommittee. And we can put something in the item maybe by the end of this week or the beginning of next week, once we solidify a date and a plan. But as Catherine was saying, the weather is getting colder, so definitely the sooner the better that we get this on the ground running.
Yeah, once I get that information, I can definitely do that.
Awesome, thank you. Great. Does anybody else have anything? Josh, go ahead.
I think we should make like a flyer to hang around school so that like students can see it and can read it, like put them all on the bulletin boards. And maybe like a digital one that we could post on our Instagrams, like spread the word so that people know that this is happening if they want to join.
Absolutely, I like that idea. Would anybody be willing to design something that we can, we'd have to get it approved by administration in order to hang around the schools. Nick, would you like to do that?
I'd be willing to do it. I'm not like the best writer, so I'd probably have to have someone help me. But I would be willing to do it with someone else. I could be able to get it around to the school because of the youth action team at Galvin at least.
Awesome. I'm glad we have that connection. So maybe that's something we can discuss further at that subcommittee meeting. Mr. Chines, go ahead.
Sorry, just one other thing I wanted to mention. If you are looking at Veterans Day, I'd also connect with Jay Panett, who's the chair of the Veterans Advisory Board in town, and I'm happy to make the introduction if you need it, but just to make sure that you're coordinating whatever you plan with the activities that they'll have going on as well.
Yeah, thank you. Bella, go ahead.
This is kind of a small detail and it won't really matter until later, but I just want to get this out there. I know for the high school, at least, if you do want to put up any posters or anything, I forget who said it, might have been Miss McLeod, might have been one of the secretaries, but they prefer if you give them like one copy of the paper or whatever, and then they sign it, and then you make copies just so that they don't have to like sign everyone. So that's just like a small thing. That's all.
Yes, thank you. I want to make sure we do this the right way. So all these small details are very important. Yelna, go ahead.
I know that we quickly mentioned shirts. Are we still thinking about doing something like creating shirts for that? Or I know we are planning a lot for this event already in a quick amount of time. So.
Yeah, I really like that idea. I'm just not sure how the timeline would work out with it being so soon. But maybe this could almost be kind of like a dry run. And then we can do something on Earth Day, and we can have something in the spring. And then we can even plan that in more detail and get shirts. And then maybe we even do like a walk around the lake or something. So we have more time to plan it, and it could be maybe even like a weekend long thing where the weather gets nicer. So I think that's definitely something I want to keep in mind and hopefully we do this again. Madeline and then Nick, you can go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, I was hanging posters at the Galvin for BBCon, which is an event that happened at the library like a week ago or so. And I know that all I had to do was talk to Miss Williams, the librarian, and she said, yep, you can go hang them up. Like there was no extra thing. So I know that there's no one that we have to tie in when hanging posters. Youth Action Team was going around and hanging posters. So yeah, I don't think that that'll be a huge complication at the Galvin, at least.
Awesome, that's good to know. Nick, go ahead.
I was just thinking if our like target date is gonna be Veterans Day, and how we were saying that we could have like a base at the library. We should probably have like donations to like the veterans there because it's a Veteran Day. We can maybe start like a fund to help out the veterans in town.
Yeah, I really like that idea because then it helps the community, but we also have a specific group that we're hoping to help. And that's very appropriate that if we do it on Veterans Day, we want to have a purpose with that. So does that sound good to everybody? And we can even connect with Mr. Panett on that because he might have some ideas on places where we can donate money or something of that sort. So
or clean up specifically around some of our memorials and things like that, I think would be very appropriate to kind of beautify. And they might already do that for Veterans Day, but I think, Lauren, you're right. Have that conversation. What would be helpful? Definitely a way to, youth signifying giving service to recognize that what all veterans did for our country.
That's great. Awesome. All right. So I love how this conversation is going. However, I do want to be mindful of time. So the four of you, I will connect you with emails and then we can set up a meeting with Sherry, get that agenda posted, and then we can move from there. So does that sound good with everybody? This is a great brainstorm. I'm very excited. This is our first big project of our term. So it sounds good. And I'm glad we're all giving some valuable input to it as well. All right, awesome. Any final thoughts, comments, or questions before we move on? All right. Did anybody else meet with their liaison and have an update? Bella, go ahead.
So I'm with the Disability Committee, and this has been ongoing for a few weeks. We met at the first Monday of October, and we're meeting again next Monday. So they've had this running thing where they're trying to get like an updated like kind of a mechanical door to the US Post Office, so it's more accessible to like all different types of people who might need it. So they finished up with the letter, like they're gonna send a letter soon, and they were brainstorming like hosting kind of a movie night with a panel of people with disabilities. It's like a movie, I forget the name of it, but I'll try to find out for next time. But it's this like movie about this I believe it's Down syndrome, this girl with Down syndrome, and like a day in her life. And then they were thinking of like hosting it in the like Galvin Auditorium like sometime next spring, and then we would all go and like watch, and then there's like a Q&A kind of after for like people who also have Down syndrome and other disabilities. So I thought that was really cool, and I said that I think we would definitely be interested in that, and if we could try to get like as many other people to come too. It's still up in the air though, so I don't have specific details, but yeah.
Thank you for that update. I definitely think that that's something that is important for the community to be involved in, especially the youth. So once that gets closer and there are more details, that's something I think we should definitely promote if everybody is on board with that. Awesome. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Bella? And then Paige, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. At the beginning of October, I met with the head of the Board of Health, Candace Linehan, and we just discussed how they're really focusing on making events for getting vaccinated. One had already passed. It was like the week that I met with her, but I think just through attending meetings, I'll be able to like relay that information on when they're happening and Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And that's something we can also promote through our social media once the communications outreach subcommittee gets going. Awesome. Any other liaison updates or questions or comments for Paige? Right. So just to kind of recap with liaison, so Catherine, you will send an email to those that have not heard back. And if you haven't scheduled a meeting, try to do that so we can kind of keep going with this, because this is really the purpose of the youth council, is to implement youth voices into town government in pre-existing groups. And this is like a really great way to do it. And then I will try to send out those guided questions, those open-ended questions that you can use at your meetings with your point person for your liaison position. All right. So item number 7 was the presentation for the Wakefield elementary students. They are not here. However, it is relating to what we talked to for the Wakefield community cleanup. So I'll touch base with them and see if they'd like to come to our next meeting, or even if they want to jump on the subcommittee meeting or the working group meeting that will happen. Just a thought that I had, Catherine or Mr. Chines, should we officially establish a working group for the town cleanup? Is that something that we have to do to schedule a public meeting?
Well, we have to post the meeting. We don't, and it can be a short-term working group. I'm not sure if we have to establish a committee.
Okay.
I think you sort of have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
We just call it that,
Yeah.
cleanup committee, and then we'll post the meeting and it will appear on the town calendar under youth council.
Perfect. I just wasn't sure if we had to officially establish one. But I think if we're all on board with it, I think that's good enough. All right. So Ali, I'm going to turn it over to you for a communications and outreach subcommittee update. I know we're still in the midst of scheduling our first meeting, but if you have anything that you'd like to share, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lauren. So I already have the agenda ready for the meeting, and that will probably be next week. So we're going to be talking about an array of things. Most importantly, how we're going to do the social media and the our outreach for this term. And if any of you are interested and want and have not requested to join the subcommittee, just email me, because I think it's a really great subcommittee to be a part of, because I was on it last year, and so was Lauren, and we took on a lot of great important things. So yeah.
Thank you for that update. And it's definitely important, because this is how the information and the work that we're doing can get out to the community. So it's very vital to our success and for the community to be in the loop on what we're doing. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Ali? I'm not seeing any. All right. So in the last email that I sent, I believe with the agenda in the meeting minutes before this meeting, I sent out a Google form to continue working on our vision and value statement. Before we had established that this is something we really want to take our time on, and something that we all feel comfortable with and proud of for putting out to the community. So I'm still going through those responses, and I'm hoping to kind of draft maybe a few options that we can talk about at the next meeting, and we can work with a little bit, but again, continue to take our time on it. So thank you to those that responded to that form. If you haven't already, I would highly suggest that you do, so we can all have our own input on it, and we can all really collaborate on it. So that is in the email that I sent last time, but with a few materials that I think I'm going to send after this meeting, I'll be sure to put that in there if you have trouble finding it. Does anybody have any questions on that? Any comments? All right. So I'm hoping that since schedules with the beginning of the year kind of starting to settle down and we're getting into winter, I'm really hoping that we can start to schedule pretty routine meeting times. Does this time work for everybody, kind of late on Tuesday evenings? I know that it can differ from week to week and sport to sport. And I'm more than happy to keep sending out the polls on when the best meeting time is. But I'm hoping that as the term goes on, we can start to solidify some regular meeting dates. So can you just give a thumbs up if this time or on Tuesdays works for you on a regular week most of the time? All right, so why don't we go ahead and schedule our next meeting? I'm just looking at the calendar. So it's the end of October. Could
I
we?
know school committee meets on Tuesdays, so maybe because Jenna and Ollie will have to go to those, maybe we can meet on their off weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe there is a school committee meeting tonight. Am I correct? Or is that next week?
I think that meeting was canceled.
Okay. Catherine, do you know?
I can pull it up on the calendar.
Okay. Thank you.
Yana has her hand.
Yeah, go ahead, Yana.
Also on Tuesday nights at 7, Human Rights Commission meets. I think every 4 weeks, I believe. It's like, I think it's the 4th week of the month. No, wait, no, it's every 4 weeks. So just to keep that.
Lauren, you and I can look at the schedule. Thanks, Yana, because we could look at when might be opportunities that the Human Rights and school committee aren't meeting. Sometimes the board, there's every night there tends to be some sort of meeting, so you're not going to be able to not, especially a Tuesday is a common, but does 7 or 7:30 work better for people?
Nick, go ahead.
I would say 7 generally works better because then it's not too late into the night. So like if you still have homework to finish up, you still have time after the meeting.
Yeah. All right. So we'll hold on that for now. I can look on the town calendar and see when a day during the week that the least amount of committees and groups meet. And then I can send out like a Google form or something just to gauge your availability on days and times. So does that work for everybody? So make sure you check your emails for that. All right, before we close the meeting, does anybody else have anything they'd like to share or ask? I have to say I'm very proud of this meeting. I think we've been very productive and I'm really looking forward to the work that we're going to do. Mr. Shines, go ahead.
No, thank you. First of all, this has been a great meeting, and I appreciate you giving me the chance to just to sit in and listen to the great work that you're doing. I'm really excited about the cleanup idea and the other things that were discussed. I did just want to mention, just from a civic engagement standpoint, one of the things that is coming up a week from Saturday is town meeting. So we have 2 town meetings generally every year. Town meeting in the spring is usually when we set the town's budget for the fiscal year that follows, starting on July 1st, and then a town meeting in the fall where there are other articles that are talked through. It's a great opportunity really for anyone who's interested in just learning more about how town government works. It is a great opportunity to come and sit in and participate. Anyone on the Youth Council who is over 18 and registered to vote also can participate by voting at town meeting, which is pretty cool too. From a governance standpoint, town meeting basically is the legislature of Wakefield. So as town councilors, we're the executive branch. Town meeting is where any changes to town bylaws are discussed. So really interesting stuff. And if anyone is interested in participating or interested in learning more about what happens at town meeting, encourage you to go. And certainly if you have any questions beforehand, please feel free to reach out to me, and happy to talk through what it's about and what we'll be discussing in a couple of weeks.
Awesome, thank you. I know that I definitely like to watch the town meetings. I just love the way the discourse works. And that's really what's kind of sparked my interest in town government. And they basically do what we do, just on a higher level throughout the town. So it's really cool to see what this could end up being eventually down the road. So, I would definitely recommend going. They also stream it on WCAT and probably even the WCAT Facebook page if you're unable to or uncomfortable to attend in person with COVID and everything. So I would definitely recommend watching or going to that. So yeah, Mr. Chines, thank you for always coming. It's awesome to have you here and to hear your input from a higher level. So that's always really great. We appreciate that. All right, does anybody else have anything before we close the meeting? All right, thank you all for coming. So do I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
I motion.
Yana motions, do I have a second?
I second.
All right, I'm gonna call the roll. Yana,
Yes.
Ali,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Uma. I'm assuming Uma is a yes. I think she might be frozen. Paige McGibbon.
Yes.
All right. Josh,
Yes.
Sophie, Sophie.
Oh, sorry. I might have been muted when I said that. I said yes.
No
Sorry.
worries. Thank you. I had a feeling. I just wanted to make sure. Nick W.
Yes.
And Madeline.
Yes.
All right. So this meeting is adjourned by a unanimous voice vote.